Here we go. All right, let me see who else has entered too. I just want to, we have someone else has entered. So welcome, welcome. This is our Finding Peace After Divorce Masterclass. We're going to talk about becoming confident again, feeling secure, healing our abandonment issues, and then moving forward so that we can feel good in this next chapter. Okay, so I have been through a divorce and I have made all the common mistakes that can leave you devastated legally, financially, emotionally. But I will say it was the start of my journey for becoming like a very healed, content, confident, just, at peace kind of person. So I don't regret anything that I've been through, but it was a very, very traumatic event. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And so my intention is to give you the keys on how to heal from divorce and childhood trauma and other events in your life so that you can go forward and create amazing new relationships in this new chapter and in this new, part of our life that we're in, even post-COVID, right? So I'm going to share how we can work together too at the end of the workshop as well. So if you're interested in learning more about my Peace After Divorce program, we'll talk a little bit about that and we'll go from there. All right, so who is this workshop for? It is for people who are successful professionally, but your intimate relationships tend to be a hot mess. That was me. You're wanting more confidence, you want to feel more energetic, you want to feel at peace, you want more productivity at work, you want to feel secure in all areas, or maybe you're struggling with boundaries, or you feel like you're constantly second guessing yourself and you feel like insecure, not good enough. You're in the right place. So perhaps you feel anxious and if not everything's in control, you feel a sense of dread, a sense of anxiety, or maybe you are grappling with loneliness and you feel rejected, you feel unworthy, you feel like you're not good enough deep down. And therapy has left you feeling stuck. So maybe you've tried therapy, but left kind of feeling like, it's okay, but I need more. I need to feel, I know that I can feel lighter, I can feel freer. So if you are wanting to feel happier, and not just your intimate relationships, but all your, you know, family relationships as well. And I get a lot of feedback from my clients that even their coworkers and their working relationship and professional relationships even go to a higher level. You're in the right place. And if you're ready, willing, and able to make the changes needed, and you can invest some time into doing some exercises, but you just don't know how to get to that next level, this is the right workshop for you. I'm so excited to have y'all here. So excited. So this is where I take a moment. I have to like put my little script in here where I just take a moment and I like to center us and just ground us together so that we can all kind of get in the same energy together. And I also just, total transparency here. I get so hyped up on these things. I kind of have to like bring my own energy down so I can be in this space with you because I'm so excited to share this information. So if you would just take a moment and close your eyes for a minute, just take this little bit of time for yourself right now. And just take a great big inhale. And if you want to put your hand on your heart or on your belly, just kind of breathe into this moment with us right here, right now. And just come together and just kind of open yourself up to some new information, some new things. Let's just let any worries go, let any thoughts go that might be kind of going on in your head right now, and come to this space together. And another big inhale through your nose and an exhale through your mouth. And as you're inhaling and exhaling, I just want you to let any thoughts that come up, just let those go. And just come to the room right here, right now. Feel your body. in your chair, where you are. Hmm. And let go of any worries, anything, any thoughts that might be floating right now. And just kind of open your mind, open your heart to what might be coming up right now. Just take another deep breath. When you're ready, come back into this space with us. Love to have you join us. And I'm so happy you're here. And I had to open my heart, and here we are together. All right. So, who the heck am I? Who the hell is T Money, right, Paul? Who's T Money? Who's Terry? So, there I am right there, rocking those little bangs as a 5-year-old. And I grew up in actually, Southern Virginia. So you might have already detected my accent. I was just a poor country girl. My mom was divorced, single mom of 2 little girls, and she had very little money, very little education. And so I grew up in a lot of poverty, just a trailer out in the middle of nowhere. And my biological father, in those days we didn't call this, but call him a functioning alcoholic, and he pretty much abandoned my sister and I straight out after their divorce. Maybe I was 4 years old, 3, 4, I don't even remember. And I was sexually abused when I was 6, 7 years old. And all of this childhood trauma really bled into my adulthood. I think on the outside, I really was driven and seemed really confident and had an air of like I had all my shit together on the outside, but on the inside, particularly these traumas would show up in my marriage. And I was like really needy and really insecure. And I like to kind of like, when I look back, I was very controlling. I was one of those controlling wives. And I also was like never ending pit. Like I could never get enough love, never enough reassurance. And, I repeated my mom's pattern and what my children were in preschool when I ended up divorced, just like my mom. And in the span of, a few months within being divorced, separated actually, I was hit by a van. I lost my mom to a stroke. I lost all my family and friends because of the financial decisions I made during that time, during that overwhelming time. I lost my home, so I was homeless, on the verge of losing this very secure job that I had because it was just such an emotional wreck. And I really understand the toll that divorce takes on you emotionally, legally, financially. So I really, really understand and have compassion for the grieving process and for the trauma that you go through when you're going through this. But I will say for me, my divorce was also like the beginning of my journey of healing all of that crap that I had brought into my relationships. And, I don't regret any of it because it all led me to where I am here today. And so here I am. I mean, I've put my life back together. Obviously, I've co-authored 2 women's empowerment books that give insights on helping women to overcome, their setbacks and becoming more resilient. I have met some of like my own personal heroes, like Jack Canfield and like Tony Robbins and like really amazing people. I have spoken all over the country at events, helping others and divorce professionals and attorneys how to help others through this time. But what I'm most proud of, y'all, is that I put my personal life back together. I am remarried to a wonderful man, and he's super generous, he's super caring, he's super loving, and he just happens to be a New York Italian. So you can only imagine the jokes that fly around at my house with our kids and our accents. And, my ex-husband and I'll just be totally transparent here. Like I said, there's no secrets. What you see is what you get with me. And we hated each other during our divorce. We had one of those nasty, bitter, just, prolonged divorces, 2 failed attorneys, 2 failed mediations, just every mistake that you can make, we made. And we were not that, like, conscious uncoupling, like let's leave in love kind of a thing. No, we're just like most divorced people. And we've been able to put all of that behind us. And we co-parent. His wife is my best friend. There we are. We hang out. We're planning my son's birthday party tomorrow. She and I cleaning and cooking and doing stuff. So I do think it is more possible than many people think. I'm not saying, healthy boundaries are like really great. And sometimes, you divorce a person for a reason. They're abusive, they're toxic, and it's best just to have those boundaries. But I think in many cases, we can develop and co-create a better co-parenting relationship going forward. I think it's possible in many people's circumstances if only they had the right tools and the right knowledge and the right communication skills. So I want to talk about some statistics. And a big reason why I enjoy working with divorced people, or those that are actually even considering divorce. A lot of people come to me in the early stages when they're considering divorce, and we work on their own unhealed traumas and unhealed issues, is because the truth is divorce is preventable in a lot of circumstances. And if you can bring your best self into a relationship, you can prevent future divorces, because the chance of you having a second divorce now is, if you've got kids, is upwards of 70%. I think it's like 69%. I don't even know what it is post-COVID. So I get it. I am a stepmom, y'all. I have, I'm in a blended family, and it's not easy. So you bring your baggage into your current marriage, and then you add on high conflict exes and stepkids and all these parenting dynamics, and it makes having a blended family extremely difficult. It's really important that you have the right tools, you have the right knowledge as you go forward into new relationships. And another reason is so many people are affected physically from toxic relationships and divorce itself. Men, I just did a really kind of popular video on this about how the mortality rate is 250 times that for a divorced man. Their mortality rate skyrockets. It's loneliness, it's stress. Once you had a divorce, you're more apt to be full of anxiety and depression. Heart disease is more prevalent in divorced people, in both men and women. Cancer rates are higher. So I know, the stress and the toll that it takes on you. So it is vital, vital, vital to get support to do the inner healing from someone who specializes this and has special know-how in this arena. So from this workshop, y'all, you're going to learn, here's the outcomes. You're going to learn how to feel secure, how to feel confident again, at peace, no matter what's going on around you. No matter if you've got a high conflict ex, or you got crazy coworkers, whatever's going on, or COVID, we shut down in a pandemic again. No matter what's going on, you can feel at peace internally. And then you're going to get tools to create better relationships, starting with yourself, how to love yourself, accept yourself. And it begins there. And then all those other relationships get better. So I'm going to show you and give you some insights on how to let go of the past, how to let go of regret, anger, guilt, remorse, shame, hurt, pain, all those nasty, nasty feelings that we carry around, and how to let go of loneliness, and learn how to build trust and how to create boundaries going forward. So what is your biggest challenge? This is where I'm going to stop. And if you want to share on a chat, or if you want to share, I'm going to write down some notes, just because I like to tailor my workshops to what your biggest takeaway that you want. What's your biggest challenge with this new chapter? Is it loneliness? Is it dating and trusting again? Are you struggling with people pleasing and healthy boundaries? Okay, Paul has raised their hand. And if you want to write it in the chat, that's fine as well, y'all.
For me, it's a lot of different things glommed together, Terry. I just had a very strange, unhealthy dynamic with. I learned the term is called enmeshed between my ex and our daughter, and living in the house with them, and that being awful, and then getting really sick, like deathly ill, when we were on a vacation in England, and was in the hospital for 30 days, and my ex left me there. So I was in the hospital for a month, and then coming back and still being ill and having surgeries, and trying to spend time with my daughter, and having my ex scowl at me and shrink away when I walk by like I was a horrible, disgusting person. And then
right. Okay, so you have an ex that triggers you, you'd say, that kind of causes internal.
I would say more it's kind of more of a just that taking on her opinion of me kind of stuck with me, and then she took our child out of the house and wouldn't let me see her. And then and that was 2.5 years ago, and I just got 50-50 custody a couple days ago, and my ex not being supportive of that. So it's it's alienation of the child, it's trauma from the divorce, it's taking on the opinion of somebody whose opinion I really valued, who I would have done anything for, but who I think literally wanted me to die. Like all that stuff is just all smushed together.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have anything in particular, a particular issue, or if you want to write in the chat box, or anything you want me to address while we're going through this workshop today?
I can add something, I suppose. Mine, I used to just be a really strong woman and very confident in myself. And I still feel that way at work, but I've never been able to stand up to the way my ex-husband has treated me or my children for the past 5 years. And I feel such sadness that he doesn't want to spend a lot of time with my children, and it is really hard for me to get over. So Terry, you and I have talked about this, but the sadness of me being a single mom and how difficult that is without a lot of support, and trying to continue on to support a life that they deserve. There is some days that I just go into a very dark place, and I don't want to do that.
Right. Okay. So leaning into reframing how we look at divorce and our ex's relationship with their parents, and finding the strength to move forward and being a single parent again. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so it really starts with, I think you guys have really, let me go back to sharing. Okay, can you see now? Hopefully. So let me just make sure y'all can see. View. All right, you guys can see the screen again, right? Okay, so it really starts with what you, right here, the awareness, right? Is looking at what do the negative emotions that are being stirred up, what's the purpose? And so taking accountability and taking responsibility for the emotions and for like everything that you're experiencing is actually taking back your power. So when we take accountability, we can then change the patterns and we can then shift how we're showing up. So you guys, it seems like you're kind of past this like victim mode, but you're very good at understanding like that toxic relationships, they do damage, right? And repeated toxic relationships and dealing with difficult people can do damage. You don't have the right mindset, you don't have the right tools. So it's building the strength within you to deal with, high conflict people and difficult people. It's definitely possible. So it really, begins with stopping within you and saying, okay, my ex is saying these negative things about me. Why am I believing it? Because here's the thing, when we feel judged, there's a portion of us that believes that is believing that. Because if someone walked up to me and they said, oh, Terry, you're a purple hippopotamus, I'd look at them like, what? That doesn't resonate with me at all. But if they were to say something like, or just using one of my past, I guess, issues, moving to the Midwest and having a very thick Southern drawl, I've heard kind of a lot of like underhanded comments, oh, you're just a, stupid redneck or something like that. That might be like, oh, that might trigger me because it's like, there's a part of me that feels a little self-conscious about being raised poor in a trailer in the South. I kind of had judgments about myself about that for a long time. So if someone were to say that, that might trigger up some of those underlying inadequacies that I haven't cleared up in myself. So if I have a negative emotion or if I have a reaction to something, I know, ooh, there's something within me that needs to be healed. So life and people will present you with places where you still need healing. Like people and events that trigger you are just revealing where you still need healing. So if you've got an ex who says you're a shitty dad, there's part of you that's judging within you that like, okay, I'm not quite secure as a father, and like, where do I need to step up in that, or where do I need to clear that out within me and know that that judgment is not true. And the negative emotion is there to teach you something, and it serves a purpose in your healing. And I talk all the time about how like my loneliness was actually the start of my healing journey. It was only when I consciously surrendered to my loneliness did I then like rise above it and let it go and understood what was really going on. A big part of my process in the Finding Peace After Divorce program is teaching people the process for consciously surrendering to these emotions and then giving them the tools to like identify the root of it and what you do once you get to the root of it. So if you are struggling with loneliness, the truth is you really don't love yourself. If you have a chronic sense of loneliness, there is deep feelings of unworthiness and inadequacy, or maybe you don't matter. And again, it all comes from our childhood. We all have our own kind of issues, or maybe we just didn't have the parents that could meet us where we were as children. And for me, consciously surrendering to that loneliness during my divorce. Like I said, I was homeless at the time. I was staying in some strange woman's basement. And I will just tell you, I really wanted to go out to the clubs, and I wanted to meet men, and I wanted to feel good about myself again. And it was kind of in that like moment, it was an aha moment for me. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was like, girl, you need to sit your ass at home. You got to stay here and kind of deal with this loneliness, because you did this in your marriage where you were lonely in the marriage, and it's got to stop, you know? And so I just kind of just like, you know what? I just surrendered to it. And I would sit night after night in this basement, crying tears, you know, just feeling sorry for myself. But it was kind of in that time when I started to recognize, you know, this is really about me feeling abandoned. The loneliness is coming from underlying feelings of abandoned by my biological father. I never really felt loved by my father. What few interactions I had with him were negative, where he was calling me names or making me feel bad about myself. And so it was really these deeper feelings of feeling unlovable. That is what it is for me. Now, for everyone else, each client that I work with, it's like slightly different, but it's a take on that. And I was just telling my client today, this morning, actually, we were talking about how we often mask what's going on internally with external things. We feel insecure, so we get a higher paying job, or we, you know, buy a bigger house. That was his thing. He needed to have this status. And deep inside, he felt so insecure and so inadequate. You cannot heal internal issues with external solutions. And that's the problem. For me, it was using relationships. It was using men to make me feel better about myself. Some people, it's, you know, getting a high power job. If I can only make enough money, I can show everyone how important I am and how great I am. And the truth is, you have to learn to love and accept yourself as you are right here and right now, and give yourself the unconditional love that you didn't get, you feel that you didn't get growing up, or that you didn't get in those really pivotal developmental milestones in your life. Now, Laura, one of my clients, she trusted everyone due to her childhood. She never, because of her she had kind of a conservative religious upbringing. It was kind of the children should be seen and not heard. And so she would find or was attracting men who would kind of use her materialistically. They would always take. And it was her way. And also because her love language was gifts, that was her way of feeling validated. But the truth was, they didn't really want her for her authentic self. She was being used, and, you know, in a sense, using them, because she's trying to fill this void that only we can fill the void within ourselves. So it's anytime there's an internal issue, you cannot fix it with external solutions. You can't fix it with women. You can't fix it with, you know, going on Tinder and finding, you know, getting all those likes and what have you. And you can't, you know, make enough money to make yourself feel valued. So it's all about figuring out what is the void within me and filling that void. And of course, today she's moved on, happily divorced, actually happily single. And so she's just focusing on her career and her son. So she's a graduate of the Finding Peace After Divorce program. So I should give you the happy part too. So the key is to define how your trigger goes back to your childhood or your own insecurities. So if you got, and here's the thing is, y'all, if you have a toxic ex or a highly manipulative ex, they know your insecurities and they know how to push those buttons and keep you on your toes, right? So as soon as you start feeling like, oh, okay, we're at a good place, we're okay, they, you know, push that button and start making you second guess yourself, question yourself. You know, so you have to figure out how it goes back to something in your youth. And our first relationship with our parents it's what shapes our perception of what love is. So it's really important that you understand that they might be filling a void in you because it, let's say, like for me, it was like feeling that abandonment. So my love language was, or is, I should say, still is, words of affirmation. So I really wanted to go out and, I like to be told, oh, you're so pretty, I really love you, you're so this, you're so that. I really longed for that. And many of us will fall for that void that we have. And someone that fills that void of feeling wanted and loved and, accepted. So we push away the red flags, or we minimize the red flags. Well, okay, that's not a big deal. And sometimes those red flags, it feels like home for many of us. I worked with James, who was in my Finding Peace After Divorce program, and he was in this really toxic relationship, and they had separated. They were over years and years. And within like 1 or 2 weeks of working together, we pinpointed what the pattern was. And the pattern was his wife was mirroring his mother in the fact that his mother was married to an alcoholic father when he was a young boy. And the father would go on these benders, right, for 2 weeks. Now, when the father was away, the mother would dote on her son, give him lots of attention, give him lots of affection. But when the father came back, the attention was gone, and all the attention was back on dad, and it was all on placating the dad and keeping him happy. So all that attention got away from James. And so this abandonment attention cycle that he and his wife had at the time was just a repeat of his childhood. And I gave him some exercises actually to break the energetic tie with his mother and forgive her. And that allowed him to break the tie with his toxic ex and like forever. Now he's moved on. His business has skyrocketed since COVID. He is a single dad to 4 children. They feel more like happy and at peace because they're not in this tug of war between mom and dad. It's very like stable now and he just feels at peace. It's just the, not that emotional roller coaster that they all were on for so long. So after, you stop this pattern, if you can figure out where does this pattern go back to, and you have the right tools to heal that underlying issue, then it's easy to break that. Any questions on that before like I move on to, I'd like to cover abandonment and how to heal abandonment. Oh, I lost my pen. So abandonment, here's the thing. When you feel abandoned by your ex, chances are it's really triggering some underlying abandonment from a previous relationship. For me, that divorce really just exposed all of my like abandonment with my alcoholic father. And so the first step is recognizing, is like finding the pattern, pinpointing the pattern, and identifying like, where did this start? What was the event or the person that triggered me originally? And what are you feeling deep inside? And for everybody, it's different. For Laura, it was that feeling of invisibility. And then for me, it was like the feeling of unlovability. And so you've got to reflect and meditate on where this abandonment started. And so meditation is a big part of my programs because you have to become mindful and start learning where do these feelings come from? What are the thoughts around them? What are the feelings around them? Where do I feel them in my body? So meditation and journaling is a big part of my process and my programs because it gets you healed quicker, faster. It's not just talking about it, like we're going to move forward and move past it and move through it. So, and then, so identifying all those things around it, and then acknowledging the hurt and naming the pain. Like I said, for Laura, it was like, I feel invisible. I feel like I don't matter. For me, it was like, I felt unlovable. I've had a client, she felt, the feeling was like not really like ignored. And then what she needed was to celebrate herself. So then once you've determined exactly what the wound is, the last step is to reparent yourself. You got to consciously give yourself the thing that your younger self is needing. And for me, it was writing a letter to that 5-year, you saw that picture of that little girl with the bangs, right? And telling her, honey, you are lovable. You are worthy just as you are. Because a lot of the way my father treated me was like, I wasn't pretty enough, or I wasn't, this enough, but, so you are beautiful. You matter. You are lovable. Everything that I needed to hear as a 5-year-old, that's what I would tell her. And everything that my client, like Ellen, who needed to celebrate, she gave that to herself. She went and bought herself a cake and took herself to a park and like celebrated herself. You got to reparent everything that you didn't get. And it's the voice that speaks up, because if you keep ignoring it, it'll keep showing up, and it'll sabotage the things that you're doing. So it's really important to identify where that is in your body, reparent that part of you that needs that, and whatever you need to hear. And it's different for every person. So I want to talk about closure. And in a lot of my workshops, a lot of people really struggle with closure and like letting go. People say, well, I need my ex to tell me I'm sorry because everything they did to them. And like forgiveness is a whole other, I could do a whole workshop just on forgiveness. Forgiveness is a part of getting that closure, but you have to understand that closure is not something you get from someone else. It's what you give to yourself. So breaking that energetic tie to that ex that is continuing to manipulate you, and choosing how to let it go. And that's another thing. It's always a choice. We can choose to let this go. And here's the other thing I think that's difficult for many people to kind of wrap their mind around. And this is why the mindfulness and the meditation is an important part of this, because you have to choose it over and over and over and over. I still do that to this day. I am the queen of grudges. I am the first one to admit my flaws. And so it is a conscious choice for me to like, oh, I see that like little negative emotion that I really want to hold against my husband, but I'm letting it go. And it might even come back. And I choose to let it go over and over and over. So it's a process. And I think for many people, they think like, oh, I've got closure on this. Or I said, oh, the divorce paper is signed. Now we're done. But you have to understand this is a process, and you might have to make that choice over and over and over and over. And rituals are a really important part of the program. It's a symbolic enactment, which allows you to utilize, and this is scientifically proven, it utilizes your creativity and your intuition in order to bypass that intellectual. So sometimes we can't get that closure. I can't get that closure from my alcoholic father. I'll never get that. But I gave it to myself through rituals, and have let all that go, and have forgiven the man who sexually abused me, and have let go of, there was a family member who betrayed me, and did a burning ceremony and let go of all that anger and all those things. So it's scientifically proven that if you use certain exercises, you can bypass some of this intellectual stuff. Like, I think there's a part of our logical part of our brain that says, I need them to say sorry to me so I can let this go. But the truth is, that's not realistic, and it won't happen. So the good news is, like I said in the beginning, you have the power. We have the power to give ourselves everything that we want. So if you want closure, you can give yourself closure. If you want to let go of that energetic tie with the ex, even if they're in your life forever, you can do that. There is a way to do that. And there is, if anyone's interested, I kind of keep my little, link here if anyone wants like a getting closure letter. So if you're struggling with like letting go of an ex or even a parent, like because your ex is a mirror of a parent. So oftentimes you can bypass some of that energy with an ex by forgiving the parent or doing a ritual on a parent, and forgiving them or letting that go or finding closure from a parent. And that helps to let go of those intimate relationships that we're still kind of grappling with. So knowing that closure comes from within, I won't spend a lot of time on this, but I did a really great, like a video on this yesterday about the myth around, or the mistake that people have about letting go is oftentimes you really aren't struggling to let go of the person. You're struggling to let go of the idealized version of that person or that idealized version in your head about the relationship. And so I think it's really beneficial, and you know, if you want these questions or whatever, you can have them, but like, what are you really holding on to? Are you really holding on to the person or your idealized version or the potential of what that marriage could have been or what that person could have been? Because oftentimes when my clients are working with me and we point out the patterns and we look at the realistic version of the marriage, when they say, oh, I can't believe this marriage ended. It was like such a great marriage. And then we look back with a better vision and we look at the patterns, and the patterns were there all along. It's just that they had blinders on. And so it's real important to let that go. And then also sometimes we hold on because we're avoiding what's on the other side. Sometimes people hold on because they don't want to deal with the pain. It's easier to blame the ex than it is to let go of that and face our own pain and our own underlying issues. And it's easier to, and to be honest, it's easier to stay in anger than it is to let anger go and go to those deeper feelings of hurt, pain. For me, one of my ongoing things when I had that betrayal from a family member was the underlying sense of powerlessness. It made me feel really vulnerable. I don't like feeling vulnerable. No one does, right? So for me to kind of like let go of that anger and get to a really vulnerable state was really difficult. I stayed in anger for kind of a bit, which is okay. It's okay to be in that journey. That's okay. But if you can recognize like, okay, if I allow this and I kind of face this vulnerability, then I can get to that other side of freedom and peace that I'm searching for. So if you can let go and let go of the fear of like what's on the other side, you know, if I let this go, what does this really mean? It means I have to like face a new chapter, or I have to face this new reality. Sometimes people, you know, we're in a little bit of denial about some of that stuff, or we're afraid to face the really painful aspects of ourselves. Like, man, I was like a shitty wife. I don't want to face that. I don't want to admit that. But by admitting that, we can get to that other side of closure and feeling at peace. And accepting all of this will make you more available in another relationship. So sometimes people don't want to hold on, and this goes into the trust part. If it doesn't look like anyone's ready for trust, but like sometimes if we hold on, we you know, it makes it easier than like feeling vulnerable in another relationship. And so we don't want to date, or we don't want to explore again. So I don't want to feel that again. So sometimes that's a big part of it. So I heard a couple of you say about having high conflict exes. And so how do we deal with, let me make sure I got my right. Great. Yeah. So we're going to talk about boundaries and having healthy boundaries. So how do we do it? So it is an ongoing process. It's a matter of learning that you matter, filling yourself up, building back your self-esteem and self-acceptance and all of that. And then also putting in healthy boundaries. Now, why is it like a wheel, right? And they're all integrated. They're all going together, because I could tell you, hey, create a boundary, set up this boundary with your ex, but you won't follow through if you don't believe that your needs matter. If deep down inside, you really believe that you're unworthy and your needs don't matter and you're not good enough, you're not going to follow through with those boundaries. So it is a multi-level process and a multi-leveled approach and multi-leveled like activities to do to build it all up. And so one of my clients in my Finding Peace After Divorce program, Bob, he was like a high-level CEO of like a big corporation here in a big town over here. And the truth was, though, he really struggled. His divorce was kind of the trigger for him, but it really was, it showed up in his professional life too. Whereas even though he was like this big ass boss at his company, the truth was he often would kind of get into little skirmishes with the employees and kind of do these things. And the truth was, y'all, he really didn't have a high opinion of himself. He had a controlling father, and he felt this need to please others and please his father because he didn't feel he was good enough. And so by putting out these little mini fires in his business, it kind of gave him a sense of like validation and see, I'm a good guy. I help them out. I'm really a good guy. But here's the thing, it undermined who he was as a boss because he wasn't delegating. Can you imagine like, Jeff Bezos getting caught up in some skirmishes with employees or some, trivial crap like that? No, because when you're the CEO and you're a leader, and own your authentic leadership. And once he worked on self-acceptance, building himself up confidently, he started having healthy boundaries with his father, with the relationship that he was in, with his ex-wife. And he didn't feel the need to get into all these little skirmishes, which was like amazing because he felt like more in his power, and the other people around him communicated with him differently, saw him in a different light. He was more of a leader. And guess what? That business took off even with COVID. It was like, wow, even I'm surprised. It's like, wow, that's amazing. But when we show up differently, people want to have boundaries because they feel secure around people with boundaries. But if they're not sure where they stand with you, they feel very insecure. So you have to really love and value yourself so that you're not seeking it from other people. Like I said, you cannot heal internal problems with external solutions. Like he was trying to make himself feel better, through these little relationships, solving these relationships. You have to value yourself enough to put in those healthy boundaries. So you have to continuously, do little things to nurture yourself, to care for yourself, to accept yourself, reframe your thinking. It is like a delicate balance and it's a process. So how do you get self-acceptance? How did Bob go from, little skirmishes to like, look, I'm delegating that, not my problem, not my issue, go talk to Susie in HR. Well, with the radical self-care, putting yourself first, always, 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 because that always builds your self-esteem. Because whenever you break promises to yourself, you're telling yourself energetically, I don't matter. My needs don't matter. Or when you say, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times this week, and then you don't go, you're telling yourself, I don't matter. My needs don't matter. So every time you say, hey, look at me, I did this, I ate a healthy meal like I wanted to, or I put 10 minutes into my day to do my journaling, you're telling yourself, I matter, I'm important. And those little micro steps start building bigger and bigger, bigger, bigger that you matter, keeping promises to yourself, putting yourself first, putting in time for yourself. And I know it's easier said in the, than done in the beginning, but it's soon these things become a habit. They just become a habit, and it's consistency. And when you start in the beginning, people will push back. People will push back, but over time with consistency, people go, oh, okay, she's at the gym. Like my family knows, like, that bitch is gonna be at the gym every day at 9, no matter what, like no matter what else goes on. My clients know it, everybody knows it. It's just my priority. It is who I am. And so people accept it, people just, okay, that's who she is. Again, when you have those boundaries, it also makes people feel really good in your presence, because they know you, they feel secure with you, because you know yourself and you know what you will tolerate and what you won't tolerate. So it begins by, first, a big part of what I do in my program is giving people like a healthy boundaries workbook, and like, what are your negotiables and what are your non-negotiables? Like, define your boundaries and understanding the wounds that are really driving you to relax the boundaries. Like our client James, remember in the beginning, when he knew, I don't want to go back to this woman. Like, he's like, and so he finally like, okay, I'm going to work with you because I need to break this cycle. And by him identifying why he was going back to her, he then could break that. So he had defined the boundary, but he really couldn't follow through because he kept relaxing the boundaries. So you got to figure out, like, why am I relaxing? What's the pattern here? What's the button that my ex-wife keeps pushing? It keeps, me to keep responding to her. She's pushing my button. Like, how do I stop that button? So that's what we need to do, is like identify that button and cut it off. And then you've got to clearly communicate your boundaries. And if y'all have seen some of my resources on, I messages are a real great way, because here's the biggest myth about boundaries. Boundaries are not about other people. They don't change other people's behavior. It's about holding yourself accountable. It's changing your behavior. I will no longer tolerate you yelling at me on the phone. When you yell at me, I will hang up. So it's all about like those I messages, because you got to own your own power and make it about you. I will not respond to text messages when I'm in the gym. I just don't. I don't respond to that. And my clients say after 5 o'clock, it's family time. Then I don't respond to, after 5. So communicating those boundaries is an important part of it. And then following through. I want to give you a story of Sue, who I worked with, because I think this was really the pivotal moment in her life when we were working together. And she was back in the dating scene. For so long, she didn't value herself. She was dating people who really were not qualified, that she really, didn't have, she was very driven in her career and her education. And she felt really, when she was around men who were also highly educated and highly driven, she didn't feel like she was good enough. So we started breaking that cycle and doing all of this self-acceptance, self-love, identifying the pattern in her family. And part of that was because she was adopted. So it left her with this abandonment wound. So filling that wound. But she was dating this guy. And I'll never forget this, because I tell people, when you're dating, don't date on feelings. Because feelings can, they can be, those red flags can feel like home if you were, stepping back into that. And this is exactly what happened with her. She was dating this guy, and we had kind of determined, like, oh, his words and his actions don't align. We want to make sure that we are dating someone whose actions and words align together. And a couple of weeks later, she mentioned him again. And I was like, oh, I thought you broke it off with him. And she kind of was like timid and like shy about it. I was like, no judgment here. I'm the last person to judge anybody. That's not what this is about. Let's just deal with what's going on. And I said, well, how does he make you feel when you're together? She said, oh, when we finally do get together, when he does follow through with his words, I feel so comfortable around him. I feel like I can be myself. And I was like, bingo, there it is. He is, helping you to fill that void of feeling accepted. And you've got to give yourself that self-acceptance and that, love yourself unconditionally and comfort yourself, because she was getting that from him. Because the truth was, she could see down the road, this guy was not reliable. And so once she kind of identify that pattern and go, oh, okay, that's what it is. He just makes me feel comfortable when I'm around him, which she didn't feel that way as, an adopted child in her own family. So once she felt like, oh, okay, I can break this off. And now she's like happily dating really great guys, so it's really amazing. So a big part of that is catching your thinking, becoming cognitively aware. Awareness, y'all, is the big key here, because you want to be walking through life totally conscious, totally intentional, and not letting these underlying feelings and underlying thoughts rule how you say, what you say and how you behave in life. Because a lot of people have the thinking of like, oh, I can never say no to my ex, or I can't stand up to my boss. But like, oh, you know what? I have a right to say no to others. If it's an invasion of my space and a violation of my rights, I can say something. I have that power, and that's okay. I matter. And particularly I see in certain people pleasers, they think they have been given, unfortunately, even as children, the duty to like hold their family together, right? Like, oh, you have to talk to your sister, but I don't want to talk to my sister. She has mental health issues. She's very unhealthy. And so mom has told, little Amber, like, oh no, you have to talk to your sister. We're a family. But you know what? It's a right to take care of yourself. You got to reframe that. If they want to stay together, if mom wants to talk to sisters, that's up to her. We all share a responsibility in our own healing and how we show up in this family. Not everything relies on me. And then this goes back to that vulnerable piece again, right? Like, I can never trust anyone, right? I know I hear that a lot from people. But you can say to yourself, I trust myself. I have a right to take a risk so I can grow in my relationships. And you have to say, I know I can handle whatever the fallouts may be. And if I find that my rights are being ignored or my boundaries are being pushed, I'll speak up for myself. I can protect myself. So, it's all about reframing the thinking and becoming aware of what we're thinking deep down. So again, how do we do that? Like, it's all about radical self-compassion, radical self-care, radical self-acceptance. It's hard to accept all of those pieces of ourselves, but when we start to accept that and embrace all of us, we can let go of that shame, we can let go of all that stuff. Meditation, mindfulness, those are all really, really huge parts of the process. Conscious exercises, becoming more consciously aware, implementing rituals and exercises so that you can release some of those subconscious feelings and subconscious emotions that we're holding on to, and healing the relationship between us and our parents. But it begins with you. You don't have to wait on anyone else to give you closure. You don't have to wait on anyone else to apologize, to forgive and move on. And you don't have to wait on anyone else to get healthy boundaries, because boundaries are not about other people. It's about you and your behavior. That's a lot. I'm getting all wound up. So here's just like what some of like my graduates from the Peace After Divorce program are saying. Things like, I am deserving of a love that wants to work through issues rather than them getting so caught up on what used to be and not focus on what's right in front of them. I learned this from Terry. Therapy has never really worked for me. What you do does work for me. Thank you. That's from another client. And Shanna said, I'm so glad to be a part of the program and that I've met you. With your help and my effort, I have the ability to not only heal from my divorce, but become a better true version of myself. And Danny says, Terry offers so many tools to help uncover feelings that are standing in the way of having a successful relationship, but also impeding on your personal growth. Over time, I started to show up differently in my relationship, no matter how difficult it was. And eventually, my partner showed up differently too. So I love all of that. And so another tool, again, I send out conscious exercises because I believe that's the key, is bringing the subconscious to the conscious and then consciously letting it go. So a radical self-compassion tool, when you're beating yourself up, when you're taking on what your ex-wife is saying and you're taking that and you're internalizing that, no, we're going to let that go, and using a radical self-compassion tool to let that go. And you know what? I no longer choose that voice. I choose this voice. I deserve love. I deserve respect. I deserve to have healthy boundaries. All of these things are part of it. So I'm just curious, y'all, I talk a mile a minute, right? There's Smith, the Southerners. I'm gonna catch my breath. The Southerners talk all slow. That's so not true. What's your biggest takeaway from today?
I think for me, and it's consistent with other things I've learned, Terry, which is a good thing, which is the idea of being aware of what these patterns are and how I'm locked into them, and really being conscious and, for lack of a better word, people love to overuse this word, but conscious and intentional and mindful around that. I think the addition of rituals into it is interesting. So that's what I'm taking with it so far, taking from it so far.
Yeah. And so more and more science is backing up the rituals, because again, it's some of this, for many, many, many years, I was doing this and doing rituals, and we know, our ancient ancestors, they've been using rituals, for so long. Well, why did they do, if it didn't work, why? They were practical people, why? And so the research behind it is that it's showing that it kind of hijacks that intellectual process and allows us to use other means to get the psychological and mental and emotional closure that we're needing. So it's really good. That's great news that we can use it. So I love ritual because I'm a hands-on person, y'all. So my program is super, super hands-on. You're gonna walk away with homework. I tell people this in my workshops because I once had a business coach who told me, don't tell people you give homework, they won't sign up. And I was like, no, I want people who want to do homework, because you can't get the results unless you're willing to do the work, So that was, it's all about you got to put in the time. That's why I said in the beginning, this is for you. If you want to put in the time, you want to put in the energy, because it's going to take your life to a whole different level. And the rituals is a huge part of it. And I'm telling you, I do these rituals myself, totally different. I tell people, in 3 days, you'll be so much lighter, so much different. You'll notice, you'll be sitting there in 3 days, you're like, oh my God, I feel so lighter. I was carrying around this negative energy for years, and you can release it in a matter of minutes. So I love that. Anybody else want to share? And Paul, if you want to share in the Facebook group or the meetup groups, it would be great if people, hey, I attended a workshop today. It was really great. I learned this and this. This helps, others to see these workshops are valuable. Anybody else?
I mean, I would love to hear from the other girls. I don't, know if this is anything different than what we have talked about, Terry, but certainly I agree with the idea of ritual, because it is very hard for me to carve out time for myself, but also self-care so that you can take care of other people better. So that is really important, because I feel like all I do is work and take care of my kids, and
Mhm.
I have little to offer for myself. So it's a constant struggle. So I agree that carve out a little time and a ritual, and I think that sounds great.
Yeah, love that. And you deserve it. And you just have to keep saying to yourself, I matter and I'm no good to anyone else. It's especially hard for like single parents when they don't have that time. I get it. And sometimes it is a matter of like waking up. For me, I wake up way early and give myself that time. Some people will stay up a little bit later at night and give themselves a little bit of like me time. But it's really important we set some intentional time in our day so we can give ourselves what we need, for sure. So, get support to become your best. So, if you are ready to feel confident, you want to move forward faster, or you want to feel at peace no matter what, so that you are the best version of yourself, I do set aside, every time I do one of these workshops, I set aside some initial um, sessions so that anyone that attends the workshop, we can talk like one-on-one, and I'll give you the 3 steps to feeling at peace for you, right? So that it's an individualized session. So you can stop feeling lonely, so you can feel secure and confident, stop being triggered by the ex, you can feel lovable and worthy, and learn the number 1 strategy to create healthy boundaries. Again, that's where you're going to attract the healthy partners, is when you show up differently in your relationship. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I know I've got to get the link for you. I struggled with this before. I learned this the hard way. I can't copy and paste my link. So I am going to copy the link here, and I'm going to put it in our chat. So if anyone wants to copy it out of the chat, I will be sending an email too, but that's there. So I will share that again. So that'll be in the chat for anyone that wants to just copy that link, or again, you can always shoot me an email. I'm going to send the link in an email. Make sure I get that in the chat. Okay. So that's for anyone that like wants the one-on-one session, and we can talk about, what your issues are and an individualized plan for you to move forward. So I would love to have y'all join me. Any other like last questions or any takeaways or anything, feedback, anything you want to share before I let y'all go on this beautiful day?
You did a great job.
Oh, thanks, Johnny.
It was much needed today. So thank you.
Oh, good. Yeah, I just love, yeah. Yay. We love that positive energy. Thank you for that. Anybody else have any questions? Anything at all? Because if not, I'm going to send out the link on an email. I don't think I sent that out yet. So.
I appreciate you sharing all this and offering one-on-one time, and I especially like so I've been doing, have you heard of Landmark Forum, Terry? So it's good. It's a lot of good tools. What I don't like about it is they really do the hard sell and try and get you to get your friends and family to sign up, and it feels a little bit pyramid-y, schemey, a little culty, even as much as there's like some good value there. It's not the same thing as coaching, but it's it's self-actualization, self-improvement.
Oh, is it like a retreat or a program or something?
it's like a program it's a weekend long thing, and then also seminars where it'll be a couple hours once a week. You might want to look at it because it's sort of in the same space you're working in. It's landmarkworldwide.com.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out because I haven't heard of that. So I want to.
Yeah, it arose out of something in the from the 60s, I think, out here in the Bay Area somewhere called EST. But it anyway. So I like that you're not doing the hard sell, but you could actually sell a little harder. Because what are we if we do the healing after divorce, what are we talking about as far as commitment or investment?
There's different group programs. I'm doing a group program at the end of the month, and then there's individualized programs. So when you click on that link, it does have like information about the different programs. So
Okay.
that'll give you an idea of like, but again, I do the one-on-one conversations for a variety of reasons. Like you said, I don't take anyone because that wouldn't, like I said, like I want you to have results. And some people like either are not a good fit or aren't willing to do the work or just don't need it. I mean, I've had a few people here and there like, you know what, you're okay. Just keep doing what you're doing. So it really, I like to do the one-on-one just to get a sense of where people are at deeper and see what I feel is the best fit for them. So when you go in the link, it has like some questions and then kind of an overview of the programs too.
Okay, I get that. And I'm also seeing some parallels with 12-step, right? So like I've been sober a long time.
Oh, I love people in recovery. I've had a ton of clients that come to me that have done recovery, and it has changed my view of like a lot of stuff. But like men who do recovery are like so introspective and so amazing. And then they do there is a little bit of overlap, and it just takes them even deeper. So I have
I mean,
never a woman, but like men who've done recovery for sure.
Yeah, we have to be accountable. We must, or it's just not going to work. But a big part of maintaining recovery is carrying the message, right? So you're by helping people, you're reinforcing what you've done and what you've learned, and so it's enlightened self-interest, right, Terry? So like you're helping others, but you're helping yourself.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Yes. And the benefit of like working with people, and then you see your own pattern, or you see like, oh, there's there's definitely benefits to like, helping others. Then you get even better, and you learn from it. So it's amazing. Oh yeah. Yes, I have a whole new respect for particularly men who've done recovery. They've been like amazing clients, just amazing. They also get like results quick because they have like a base, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna send out this email today because I think I forgot to schedule it, and then hopefully I'll hear from all of y'all soon. Y'all have a good weekend, okay?
Thanks, Terry.
All right, bye.